Dolly Parton isn't only the queen of country, she's the pulse of American feeling. For more than 6 decades, her voice took our hurt, wrapped it in silk, and returned it as hope. Tonight, that voice stands close to quiet. In the small hours, her sister Frida Parton wrote, "I was up all night praying for my sister Dolly. Many of you know she hasn't been feeling her best lately. I truly believe in the power of prayer, and I've been led to ask all of the world that loves her to be prayer warriors and pray with me." When a plea comes from family, the worry is real. For over 6 decades, Dolly gave us Jolene, Coat of Many Colors, and I Will Always Love You, songs that turned heartbreak into healing and loneliness into light. She climbed from the cold hills of Tennessee to a throne in music history, carrying grace where others carried scars. And now, at 79, as Las Vegas dims and the world holds its breath, we ask, can the voice that comforted millions find the strength to comfort itself? Before we begin, light a candle in your heart. Say a prayer for the woman who poured hers into every note. Some souls arrive bearing bruises, carrying wounds childhood can't mend. Dolly Rebecca Parton was one of them. Long before doctors' reports or whispering headlines, she had already learned survival, not in clinics, but in the hollows of the Great Smoky Mountains that raised her. Born January 19, 1946 in Sevier County, Tennessee, her first lullaby was Wind Threading the Pines. Home was a one-room cabin crouched between ridges. No electricity, no running water, only mountain hush and a mother's heavy breathing. The family was so poor they paid the doctor with a sack of cornmeal. That night, the cold pushed through plank walls like a living thing. The stars burned bright and far, like heaven watching from a distance. Her father, Robert Lee Parton, could not read or write, but his hands told stories of sacrifice, cracked, calloused, and steady as the hills. He was up before dawn, fogged the fields, doing any job that kept 13 plates from going empty. Her mother, Avie Lee, moved like a hymn, soft, tireless, worn down by love. By 6, Dolly fetched creek water, rocked babies, and stirred beans over a wood stove until the smoke stung her eyes. Toys were luxuries she never met. Work was the language of love. Then came 1955. Dolly was 9 when the house fell silent. Her infant brother, Larry, lived only 4 days. There was no funeral, no stone, just a tender patch of earth behind the cabin. Her mother's hands folded like broken wings. Her father's steps grew heavy. The little girl who sang to push back the dark now met a silence that wouldn't sing back. She carried it always. Later, she said some songs were conversations with the brother she barely knew, whispers to a child who never learned to speak. School offered no shelter. One winter, Avie Lee stitched Dolly a coat from scraps, each patch chosen in love. In class, laughter fluttered sharper than the wind. Children saw rags where she felt a crown. She kept her chin high and walked home through the snow, tears hot against the cold. Years later, pain became a blessing in Coat of Many Colors, a hymn to dignity born from humiliation. Long after 2003, when her mother passed, Dolly still struggled to sing it. Memories can loosen even the strongest voice. By 7, music had become a refuge, a rebellion, a prayer. She wrote songs before she could spell them, turning hunger into melody, loneliness into lullabies, grief into something her heart could hold. "I didn't write to be famous," she'd say. "I wrote to survive." No one then could imagine that the barefoot child singing to the ridgelines would one day stand under the world's brightest lights. At 10, people were already stopping to listen. In 1956, she began traveling with her uncle Bill Owens, chasing radio towers and backroom studios like fireflies. The car was old, the gas tank half full, and the dream overflowing. They slept on borrowed couches and church pews, or in a tired Chevy under the Tennessee sky. It was exciting and hungry at the same time, she'd recall. Nights when stars felt close enough to touch. Mornings when frost filming the windows was the only decoration they owned. She graduated from Sevier County High School in 1964 without fanfare. Just a cardboard suitcase, a bus ticket, and $20 in her pocket. "I'll make it, or I won't come back at all." The Greyhound rolled away, the mountains shrinking in the rear view to ghosts. Nashville glittered from a distance, but up close the neon was cold. Doors shut. Voices teased her accent. The room she rented by the week held a silence that weighed more than the mountain winter. "Some nights I sang just to keep from disappearing." In 1965, a miracle cut both ways. Monument Records signed her, but asked her to soften, to polish, to sand down the mountain edges. She cut Happy, Happy Birthday, Baby, and What Do You Think About Loving? and smiled for the camera lights. The takes were perfect. The truth wasn't hers. I felt like I was wearing someone else's skin. When the singles stalled, the calls slowed. By day, she played Smoky Rooms. By night, she wrote by candle when the lights were cut. Lyrics scrawled on envelopes and the backs of old flyers. Then 1966. A small song changed the weather. Put It Off Until Tomorrow, which she co-wrote with Bill Owens, slipped into the world on singer Bill Phillips' voice and flew to #1. Suddenly, the question on Music Row was, "Who's Dolly Parton?" The answer came in 1967 with, "Hello, I'm Dolly." Not an introduction so much as a declaration. These weren't fantasies. They were testimony. And while some still saw a smile, they missed the steel behind it. "I didn't come all this way to be told who I am," she'd say. In 1973, she wrote her Goodbye, the gentlest exit ever given to a cage. "I Will Always Love You" wasn't just a song. It was liberation, wrapped in grace. When she sang it, time seemed to hold its breath. Her climb wasn't a glide. It was grit beneath blinding stage lights. By 1970, she shone weekly on the Porter Wagoner Show, her voice pouring into millions of homes. On screen, she was sunshine. Off screen, the creative air thinned. She loved and respected Porter Wagoner, but love can't loosen a noose. By 1974, she walked away. Not from gratitude, but toward oxygen. "I cried all the way to the top of the charts," she'd admit. Success born from loss can feel like mourning. The year before, she had dropped Jolene, lean and haunting, a whisper that cut like thunder. Nashville kept trying to box her. Duet girl, novelty, too pretty to be profound. By day, she filmed and performed. By night, she wrote alone in motel rooms, ink smearing under tired hands. "Writing was how I fought my battles." The mid-70s tested her body and spirit. Tours bled into dawn. Costumes bruised ribs. Sequins hid fatigue. Some nights she left the stage and collapsed on tile. She'd laugh. "Guess I sparkled too hard." But when the lights went black, her body shook from exhaustion. Still, she refused the formula. And then 1977. Here You Come Again broke boundaries. #1 on country and top 3 on pop. Purists cried betrayal. She smiled. "I wasn't leaving country. I was taking it with me." In 1980 came 9 to 5, written in a sleepless night beside Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin. It wasn't just a song. It was a rallying cry set to a beat. It dominated across genres while Dolly frayed behind the curtain. 12-hour shoots, flights, interviews, studios. "Some nights I didn't recognize the girl in the mirror," she confessed. The smile and hair were there. Behind them lived painkillers, prayers, and willpower. The 80s brought a quieter storm. Fads rushed past like summer rain. She didn't chase them. She held her ground. Tennessee Homesick Blues in 1984 and Why'd You Come In Here Looking Like That in 1989 proved she could evolve without erasing herself. "If I chased trends, I'd get lost in the crowd." But the steepest hill wasn't the charts. It was her body. The diagnosis, endometriosis. The stage lights hid the pain. Backstage, she steadied herself and kept that old promise. The show must go on. In 1982, surgery saved her life and stole her dream of bearing a child. The house grew very quiet then. No crib, no tiny shoes by the door. Only the ticking clock and a grief without a grave. For a woman who turned every hurt into music, this was the one verse she couldn't finish. She called it later an affair of the heart. Not scandal, but unraveling. The emptiness slid toward a gray numbness. One day, it nearly ended everything, until the soft patter of paws cut the silence. Popeye, her little dog, found her. He asked for nothing but her presence. And in that simple love, something in her chose life again. Healing didn't arrive like a parade. It came in whispers. Prayer, help, and songs written for survival. Grief kept knocking. Her mother, Avi Lee, whose hands stitched that famous coat, passed in 2003. For a long time, Coat of Many Colors felt like reopening a wound. Among all her siblings, her brother Floyd Parton was the one who shared her lyric heart. Together, they gave the world Rockin' Years, which reached #1 in 1991. In December 2018, Floyd died at 61. At a small Tennessee chapel, the Partons sang Rockin' Years one last time. No microphones, just breaking voices. Afterward, friends noticed a softer light around Dolly. Floyd wasn't only a co-writer, he was the bridge back to the barefoot girl on the porch. Late at night, the guitar felt heavier. Some harmonies never return. Some losses are too raw for melody. Her beloved niece Tever, only 36, fought shadows too strong to wrestle alone. Dolly tried, quietly paid $25,000 for rehab, hoping for one more chorus. But the tide didn't turn. There were no headlines, just a family's small goodbye and an aunt who could heal the world, yet could not save one of her own. The lesson she carried: love doesn't always rescue, but it stays. There was another ache, the dream of motherhood she'd held since 1966. When she married Carl Dean, after 1982, she re-aimed that love outward to nieces, nephews, and in 1995 to the Imagination Library, sending books to children she'd never meet. If she couldn't rock one cradle, she'd help fill millions of little hands. Today, the program has gifted over 200 million books. Her catalog holds more than 3,000 songs, but she no longer counts by numbers. She counts by lives touched. For decades, Carl Dean was the one place she could be no one's icon, just his Dolly. He stayed in the shadows, her harbor from the roar. In 2025, at 82, he slipped away in their Nashville home. She planned a small, private farewell in the cedar chapel on their land, filling it with wildflowers he loved and photos no one had ever seen. Muddy boots by a garden, flannel Christmas mornings, bare feet on a porch swing. She read his yellowed letter: "You were always my shining star, but I never needed the world to know. Just you?" And then sang the private song she'd written for him long ago. When the last note faded, the house grew very quiet. She still makes 2 cups of coffee in the morning out of habit. Love that deep doesn't vanish. It changes rooms. Lately, even her body seems to echo the absence. Her sister Frida asked for prayers, saying Dolly hadn't been feeling her best. Shows in Las Vegas were postponed, moved from December 2025 to September 2026, the doctors urging rest. She smiles through it, teasing that the upcoming procedures aren't the kind she used to get from her plastic surgeon. But those close to her know she's slowed, resting more, working less, saving strength for the next sunrise. She calls it a season of stillness. Stillness has never meant silence. Between appointments and quiet recovery days in Brentwood, Tennessee, she slips into her private studio where guitars gleam beside old photos of the people she's loved and lost. In the hush between heartbeats, she writes melodies that sound like memories, prayers disguised as lullabies. Even when breath is shallow and hands tremble, the spirit keeps time. Endurance, faith, love that refuses to end. There are few lives larger than their music. Dolly Parton is one of them. She is not merely a singer. She is living proof of what the human spirit can endure and give. From a one-room cabin to the grandest stages, her story has never been just about success. It's always been about survival. Every lyric carries fingerprints of pain and perseverance. She turned struggle into symphony and heartache into hymn. Now, as she enters a delicate chapter, slower steps, postponed shows, Frida's midnight plea, the world once again holds vigil for the woman who taught it to keep going. She doesn't ask for pity. She believes in prayer. When asked about the road ahead, she smiles. "Honey, I've been through worse. The Lord's got me." If her songs ever stitched you together, if Coat of Many Colors made you feel seen, or I Will Always Love You helped you say goodbye, send a prayer, leave a light. Because legends don't only belong to history, they belong to hearts. And the best way to honor Dolly Parton is to live as she has always sung: kindness without price, love that outlasts storms, and courage that glows when the lights grow dim. The world may quiet one day, but her song, like a mountain echo, will not. Some voices once heard ring forever.